There's a rare and quiet kind of strength in choosing not to react. In a world that glorifies outrage, speed, and emotional outbursts, the power to stay centered, to feel fully without being driven by those feelings, is quietly disappearing. But the Stoics knew this truth long before us. It's not the events themselves that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. Still, how often do we give away our peace to a thoughtless comment, a moment of discomfort, a story we never questioned? Today I invite you to consider something radical. True power isn't found in controlling everything around you. It's found in mastering your response to what life throws your way. This isn't about numbing your emotions. It's about becoming the kind of person who knows what to do in that tiny moment between stimulus and response. And in that space, right there, you discover your unshakable self. If this message hits home, consider liking this video, sharing it with someone who might need it, and joining me as we explore the Stoic path of self-mastery. Habit 1. Understand your triggers. Every strong emotion we feel carries a hidden message. It often has less to do with what's happening now and more to do with what once was. Old wounds, buried memories, silent beliefs we never challenged. The Stoics taught that our judgments, not the world, are the source of our suffering. But where do those judgments come from? Imagine the last time you lashed out or shut down. Maybe it was a simple rejection or a passing criticism, yet it hit you like a storm. Why? Because underneath that moment is a deeper story, perhaps one of being overlooked, misunderstood, or unprotected as a child. These are your emotional triggers. They're not flaws. They're echoes of your earliest experiences. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." But how can we change that estimate unless we know what shaped it? That's why awareness is key. Start by observing your reactions with gentle curiosity. Ask, is this really about what's happening right now, or am I reacting from an old wound? Over time, you'll start to spot patterns. Maybe rejection stings too much, or authority figures make you nervous. These aren't weaknesses. They're signs pointing to the places that still need your attention and compassion. Self-awareness is how you turn the lights on in the dark corners of your psyche. It allows you to walk through life with steadiness instead of stumbling blindly. The goal isn't to eliminate your triggers, it's to understand them so well that they lose their grip. This is where emotional freedom begins. You stop reacting out of habit, you start responding with wisdom. In the noise of today's world, silence is strength. Not the silence of avoidance, but the calm refusal to be ruled by every emotional surge. We live in an age that celebrates outrage, speed, and reaction. But what if the real strength lies in restraint? What if wisdom begins the moment we pause? The Stoics taught that what disturbs us isn't reality, it's our view of it. But most of us hand over our inner peace far too easily. A careless word, a minor setback, a flicker of discomfort. These things hijack our emotions because we've forgotten one key truth. We can't always control what happens, but we can always control how we respond. Habit 2, let the body speak first. Before your brain even has time to label your feelings, your body already knows. A racing heart, tight shoulders, a stomach in knots. These physical signals are your first clue that something is stirring emotionally. But we often ignore the body. We're lost in thought, glued to screens, rushing through life. We only notice we're overwhelmed once it's too late. The truth is, your body is your earliest alarm system. Anger might show up in a clenched jaw, anxiety in shallow breaths, sadness in a heavy chest. These aren't just symptoms, they're signals. The Stoics might not have written explicitly about the body, but their emphasis on self-observation applies deeply here. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to watch his mind without judgment. We can do the same with our body. Noticing your body gives you the precious pause between feeling and reacting. You feel the surge coming. You say, wait, something's rising in me. And that recognition, it gives you a choice. Instead of snapping, you breathe. Instead of withdrawing, you stay present. You begin asking, what's my body trying to tell me before my mind races ahead with assumptions? This is not easy. It takes practice, patience, and presence. But the body rarely lies. While the mind can distort and deny, your body stays honest. Tension means fear. Shallow breath means stress. Heaviness means grief. Start listening. A few deep breaths can settle your nerves. Relaxing your shoulders can calm your mind. These small acts create space, and space creates clarity. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality," and that suffering grows when we ignore what's actually happening inside us. So treat your body like a trusted friend. Let it guide you through the storm. Feel it, listen to it, honor it. Because if you master your body's signals, you begin to master your emotional life. Habit 3, build the sacred pause. There's a tiny gap, barely noticeable, between what happens to you and how you respond. Inside that space lives the freedom most people never realize they have. We often jump straight from emotion to action. Someone offends us, we snap. Something goes wrong, we spiral. It feels automatic, like there's no in-between, but there is. And that in-between, that pause, is where emotional strength begins. We live in a world that values quick reactions. Be fast, be first, be loud. But wisdom is slow. It listens before it speaks. It considers before it acts. That's where the Stoics lived. Epictetus taught that while we can't always choose what happens, we can always choose how we judge what happens. That choice, the one that changes everything, lives inside the pause. But don't be fooled. It's not easy. Your biology is wired for speed, fight, flight, freeze. When something triggers you, your body floods with adrenaline. You want to defend, attack, or shut down. This instinct kept our ancestors alive, but it can ruin modern relationships, conversations, and careers. So how do we train the pause? Start simple. Breathe. When you feel yourself heating up, don't respond. Don't speak. Don't act. Just breathe. One slow, deep breath is enough to interrupt the emotional chain reaction. It signals safety. It tells your brain, there is time. I am okay. Then reflect. Ask yourself quietly, is what I'm about to say necessary? Is it kind? Is it wise? These questions pull you out of reactivity and into intentionality. At first, it'll feel strange. Slowing down when everything inside you is speeding up will feel unnatural. But stay with it. Eventually, you'll become the person who doesn't flinch, who doesn't lash out, who doesn't break under pressure. You'll become grounded. That's what real strength looks like. Not domination, but calm. Not suppression, but control. Not silence from fear, but silence from mastery. Habit 4. Mindfulness as a way of living. Mindfulness isn't some distant mystical practice. It's not just for monks or weekend retreats. It's something much closer, much more personal. It's how you live this very moment. It's how you drink your morning tea, how you speak to someone you love, how you breathe when you're alone. We often imagine mindfulness as a break from life, but it's not. It is life lived fully. It's noticing in real time the unfolding of now without slipping into autopilot. When you're mindful, you stop rehearsing old hurts and future worries. You show up for your own existence. The Stoics practice this beautifully, even without using the word. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to return to the task at hand, to act with total integrity in even the smallest actions. That is mindfulness. Not being perfect, but being present. Most of us move through our days half asleep, eating without tasting, listening without hearing, reacting without thinking. Mindfulness snaps us awake. It sharpens our senses and deepens our self-mastery. It helps us catch the tiny flickers of emotion before they consume us. That's not a small thing. That's everything. You don't need extra time to be mindful, just extra attention. When you eat, eat. Notice each bite. When you walk, feel your feet on the earth. When you speak, be fully there. Every moment is an invitation to presence, and in that presence lies your freedom. Seneca once said that true happiness is enjoying the present without clinging to the future. That's mindfulness, not escape, but deep engagement. And when the storms come, as they always do, mindfulness becomes your anchor. It won't stop the wind, but it will keep you from being blown away. Habit 5. Build unshakable self-awareness. To know yourself is to take the first step toward true wisdom, and yet most of us go years without actually seeing ourselves. We get lost in the noise, distracted by others, ruled by emotions we barely understand. Self-awareness is not just recognizing what you do, but understanding why you do it. It's not just about catching your habits. It's about decoding the beliefs and stories behind them. The Stoics urge relentless self-examination. Marcus Aurelius used his journal as a mirror, questioning his motives and challenging his own thoughts, not to criticize, but to clarify. Because without clarity, we don't have freedom, we have reactivity. This kind of deep self-awareness begins in quiet moments. What story just lit that fire? When you're sad, notice, where in your body does it live? What memory is echoing through that sadness? You don't have to fix your feelings. Just witness them. Writing helps. Honest journaling. Not polished, not profound, just real. Put the tangle of your inner world on paper. When you see your thoughts clearly, they stop controlling you from the shadows. But true self-awareness also requires the courage to face your own blind spots. It's easy to notice when others hurt us, harder to admit when our ego speaks louder than our wisdom. But the more we see, the more we can shape. Seneca said that adversity reveals who we really are. So does introspection. Without it, you're tossed like a leaf in every storm. With it, you become the captain of your own ship, not perfect, but purposeful. When you truly know yourself, your fears, your patterns, your power, you can't be manipulated by flattery or destroyed by criticism. You move through life steady, not because the world is calm, but because you are. Habit 6. Name and accept what you feel. You can't master an emotion you won't admit exists. Emotional control begins with emotional honesty, and that means calling each feeling by its real name. Too many of us grew up learning that anger is bad, sadness is weak, fear is failure. So we push emotions down, pretend they're not there. But what you suppress doesn't disappear. It strengthens in the dark. The Stoics didn't say, don't feel. They said, understand. Seneca reminded us that true strength is forged in the fire of adversity. That includes emotional adversity. Facing your emotions with clarity is not weakness. It's the highest kind of courage. Labeling an emotion creates distance. You move from I am angry to I feel anger. That small shift changes everything. You become the observer, not the prisoner. After labeling comes acceptance. This doesn't mean surrendering to your feelings. It means acknowledging them so they can move through you, not bury themselves inside you. Emotions are like weather. They come, they go. You don't need to fight them. You just need to recognize them. Acceptance gives you a chance to act wisely instead of reacting blindly. Marcus Aurelius taught us to focus on what's within our control. We may not control the emotions that rise up, but we can always choose what we do with them. Start simply. This is frustration. This is fear. This is longing. You don't need to overanalyze it. Just name it. Accept it. Let it pass. Emotional mastery isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming free. Free to feel without being ruled. Free to choose your next step, not from denial, but from deep understanding. Habit 7. Reframe your thoughts, reclaim your power. The stories we tell ourselves shape the lives we live. Often it's not the situation that hurts. It's the meaning we attach to it. One rejection becomes proof that we're unworthy. One failure becomes a prophecy. But it doesn't have to. The Stoics were masters of perspective. They knew that life doesn't come labeled good or bad. We assign those labels. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And that reaction begins with thought. To reframe is to rewrite the story in real time, not to sugarcoat it, but to shift your perspective from helplessness to possibility. A friend cancels plans. You could think, they don't care. Or you could pause and consider, maybe they're going through something. Maybe it's not about me. That shift isn't denial, it's clarity. Catch yourself in those thought spirals. Say it aloud. I'm thinking I'm a failure because I made a mistake. That one act, naming the thought, pulls it into the light. Then question it. Is this really true? Is this the only way to see this? Marcus Aurelius reminded himself over and over. This is neither good nor bad. It simply is. That neutrality, that inner calm, is a superpower. Reframing doesn't erase pain, but it gives it a different shape, one you can work with. It turns a dead end into a detour, a wound into a teacher, a bad day into a moment of practice. In time, your mind becomes your ally, not your enemy. You stop reacting from old patterns and start responding from grounded perspective. Because ultimately, pain will come. Life will test you. But when you change the way you think, you change the way you live. Changing your inner world isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily discipline. Some days, reframing your thoughts will come effortlessly. Other days, the old inner stories will echo louder than ever. That's the reality of true transformation. It's uneven, it's imperfect, and it's deeply human. But every moment you pause, every time you challenge a disempowering belief, every time you shift your perspective towards strength, you're teaching your mind what freedom looks like. To reframe is to reclaim. You stop being a prisoner of your mind's harshest interpretations. You become the author of your narrative. You look at life not through the eyes of fear, but through a lens that empowers and uplifts. Ask yourself, is there another way to see this? What's the strongest way to interpret this situation? How would my wisest self respond? And in asking, you start to dissolve the grip of negativity. You create space for peace, insight, and resilience to enter. This is how emotional strength is built, not in grand declarations, but in small, quiet choices repeated daily. Changing your inner world isn't a one-time decision, it's a daily discipline. Some days reframing your thoughts will come effortlessly. Other days the old inner stories will echo louder than ever. That's the reality of true transformation. It's uneven, it's imperfect, and it's deeply human. But every moment you pause, Every time you challenge a disempowering belief, every time you shift your perspective towards strength, you're teaching your mind what freedom looks like. To reframe is to reclaim. You stop being a prisoner of your mind's harshest interpretations. You become the author of your narrative. You look at life not through the eyes of fear, but through a lens that empowers and uplifts. Ask yourself, is there another way to see this? What's the strongest way to interpret this situation? How would my wisest self respond? And in asking, you start to dissolve the grip of negativity. You create space for peace, insight, and resilience to enter. This is how emotional strength is built, not in grand declarations, but in small, quiet choices repeated daily. Habit 8. Cultivating empathy and self-compassion. We often confuse emotional toughness with emotional detachment, as if true strength means never being affected. But the deepest strength lies in staying open, in choosing empathy when judgment feels easier, in meeting suffering, not just of others but your own, with kindness instead of criticism. Empathy means seeing the pain beneath the anger, the fear behind the insult. It's realizing that when someone lashes out, it often reveals more about their own wounds than it does about you. Marcus Aurelius reminds us to look inward before we point fingers. He wrote, "When you're about to criticize someone, ask what fault within you most closely resembles theirs." That shift in awareness doesn't justify the behavior, but it protects your peace. It gives you space to understand, not just react. And when it comes to compassion, the hardest place to practice it is often within. We judge ourselves for flaws we forgive in others. We hold ourselves to impossible standards while showing patience to friends. But self-compassion means recognizing that imperfection isn't failure. It's part of the human experience. Seneca said it plainly, "No one becomes great all at once. Growth is not linear. You will falter. You'll get angry. You'll repeat mistakes. But with self-compassion, each setback becomes a lesson. Each emotional stumble becomes a step forward in wisdom." Compassion doesn't mean avoiding responsibility. It means taking responsibility with grace. You can say, "Yes, I messed up, but I am not my worst moment. I will learn and I will keep going." That's real power. That's real self-respect. Empathy and compassion, directed outward and inward, make your mind both resilient and soft, clear-eyed but kind, able to see without being jaded, able to feel without breaking. It's not the strength of stone, it's the strength of water, steady, persistent, quietly unstoppable. Every day gives you the chance to practice. When someone snaps at you, when a friend lets you down, when your own mind becomes your harshest critic, pause, choose understanding, choose kindness, not because it's easy, but because it makes you unbreakable. Habit 9. Owning your emotional responsibility. There's a line between what life throws at you and how you respond to it. Most people never cross that line. They live reacting, blaming circumstances, people, fate, as if their emotions were puppets controlled by others. But the truth is clear. You are responsible for how you react. Not responsible for everything that happens? No. But you are absolutely responsible for what meaning you give it, what story you tell yourself, and what action you choose next. Epictetus taught this with piercing clarity. Events may hurt, but they don't disturb us. It's our interpretation that does. Pain is real, but suffering is often optional. And when you finally take ownership of your inner world, everything shifts. Taking responsibility doesn't mean self-blame. It's not about guilt. It's about power. It's saying, "Oh, my emotions are mine. My peace is mine. My growth is mine to create." When you outsource responsibility, you give away your peace. You allow a rude driver to ruin your day, a missed opportunity to destroy your self-worth. But when you step into ownership, you become untouchable. You stop living from the outside in and begin living from the inside out. Yes, it's hard. It means giving up blame, letting go of waiting for apologies, releasing the idea that your happiness must wait until things get better. It requires the maturity to say, maybe I fed this thought. Maybe I held on to this grudge. Maybe I acted from my own wounds. Responsibility is not the absence of emotion. It's the presence of clarity. You'll still feel anger, sorrow, fear, but now you'll catch them before they control you. You'll pause, you'll breathe. You'll act from choice, not compulsion. That's not just emotional intelligence. That's freedom. Habit 9, full responsibility, the foundation of inner strength. Marcus Aurelius, burdened by war, betrayal, and the weight of empire, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He didn't say you'll find ease or comfort. He said strength, true strength. Not in bending the world to your will, but in mastering the only thing that's always within your command, your perception, your purpose, your response. The moment you claim ownership of your reactions, you step into a new version of yourself. Criticism stops wounding. It begins teaching. Setbacks stop breaking you. They begin shaping you. The chaos around you no longer dictates your mood. You become the sky, vast, calm, untouched by the storms passing beneath. Taking responsibility doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. It doesn't mean letting others walk over you. Quite the opposite, it means you set firm, clear boundaries. But your tone, your calmness, your dignity in the face of fire, that's yours to choose. Responsibility isn't a single heroic act. It's a quiet decision made 100 times a day. When someone cuts in front of you, when your plans fall apart, when someone fails to meet your expectations. Each moment whispers the same question: will you react blindly or respond consciously? Every time you choose ownership, you lay a brick in the foundation of resilience. Not the loud kind, the quiet, steady, immovable kind. The kind of strength that's unshaken by what others do or don't do. Responsibility is not just a mindset, it's a lifestyle. A declaration that your peace is yours, your life is yours, and no external event has the right to steal it away. Habit 10, letting go, ego, pride, and the poison of grudges. Many of us carry a burden we don't even see, a weight that dulls our clarity, tightens our chest, clouds our vision, and it's not what others did, it's what we're still holding. Ego, pride, grudges. We're taught that strength means standing your ground, refusing to bend, never backing down. But sometimes the real power lies in the release, in putting down the bitterness, the righteousness, the need to win, and walking away lighter. Ego whispers that you must be right, that being wrong is shameful, that every challenge to your identity is an attack. Pride insists that forgiveness is weakness and revenge is justice. Grudges masquerade as self-protection, but really they are chains we clasp to ourselves, keeping the pain alive long after the moment has passed. Marcus Aurelius saw this. "Will you be angry with the world?" he asked, as if the world would care. He knew bitterness doesn't punish the other person, it poisons you. Letting go of ego isn't self-erasure. It's knowing who you are so clearly you don't need the world to constantly validate it. You can hear criticism without falling apart. You can admit mistakes without feeling like a failure. You don't crumble because you were never pretending to be perfect. Letting go of pride isn't surrender, it's wisdom. You stop needing to win every argument. You stop turning every disagreement into a battlefield. You apologize without losing face. You forgive without needing an audience. Grudges, though, are the heaviest. They pretend to protect, but they imprison. They convince you that anger is power, but it's not. It's a fire you keep feeding, burning your own peace while the other person walks away unaffected. Forgiveness, in the Stoic sense, is not erasure. It's clarity. It's refusing to let past injuries write your future. Seneca said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." You don't free yourself by mirroring the pain. You free yourself by breaking the chain. Letting go is not one grand act. It's a practice. When the insult stings, when pride rises, when resentment burns, you pause. You breathe. You remind yourself, I choose peace over power plays. I choose clarity over control. And when you do, you become weightless. You move through life unburdened, not because you've never been hurt, but because you no longer carry every hurt with you. These practices are not performances. They will not always work the same way. Some days you'll breathe deeply and feel peace return. Other days, anxiety will still push harder. That's not failure. It's part of the process. Mastery isn't never feeling stressed. It's becoming someone who knows how to return to center again and again. Don't wait for crisis to practice. Make calm a daily ritual. Breathe with awareness. Move with intention. Reflect with honesty. Simplify with courage. And you'll find that even in the storm, you are becoming the stillness within it. Habit 13, embracing imperfection and practicing self-compassion. There's an unexpected grace in our flaws. In the jagged edges, the piece is still in progress. The messy human parts we often try to conceal. But too often our first instinct is to resist them, to edit ourselves, to polish every crack until we vanish behind the illusion of perfection. We convince ourselves that one day, after enough effort, enough discipline, enough fixing, we'll finally arrive, flawless, complete, untouchable. But that ideal, it's a mirage. Perfection is not the reward of growth. It's its greatest obstacle. Growth is not about erasing what makes us human. It's about learning to live at peace with it. To embrace imperfection is not to abandon the pursuit of excellence. It's to free yourself from the burden of thinking that worthiness comes only after you're flawless. It's realizing that your scars, your stumbles, your inconsistencies, they're not proof of failure. They're proof that you're alive. Even Marcus Aurelius, emperor and Stoic, didn't pretend to be above his flaws. In his private writings, he confessed his impatience, his anger, his struggles. But he didn't shame himself for them. He observed them with honesty. He treated them not as defects, but as places to grow. His goal was never perfection, it was steady progress. That's the invitation of self-compassion. Not to excuse, but to understand. Not to let yourself off the hook, but to soften the rope around your own neck. When you fall, and you will, self-compassion doesn't say you're hopeless. It says you're human, and you're still trying. When you fall short of your ideals, it doesn't scream, you'll never get it right. It whispers, this is part of the learning. And when you mess up, it doesn't demand punishment. It offers patience. You're still on the path. Keep walking. Without compassion, every slip becomes a verdict. Every flaw becomes a shameful secret. The mind spirals. Why am I like this? Will I ever get it right? In this harshness, growth withers. Courage retreats. The willingness to try again disappears. But with compassion, mistakes shift shape. They become feedback instead of failure. Lessons instead of life sentences. They stop defining you and start refining you. Seneca once said, while we teach, we learn. In the same way, while we fail, if we're willing, we grow. If we meet ourselves with gentleness instead of judgment, we become our own allies instead of our harshest critics. Self-compassion is not a switch. It's a skill, a discipline, especially if you've spent years believing that cruelty fuels progress. It takes conscious practice to notice when your inner critic rises and to choose instead a voice rooted in understanding. It can start small. When you forget something important, instead of scolding yourself, you pause and say, "I'm juggling a lot. It's okay to forget. I'll find a better way." When anxiety overwhelms you, instead of calling yourself weak, you gently affirm, "I'm carrying more than usual. I deserve care, not judgment." These tiny shifts matter. They begin to rewire the mind. They teach you that growth is not earned by self-punishment, but by safety, by the freedom to fall without fearing that every stumble erases your worth. When you lose your temper, don't collapse into shame. Instead, speak to yourself with clarity and care. "That wasn't the version of me I aspire to be. I see it, and next time, I will choose better." Each of these small acts of gentleness reshapes your inner wiring. They send the message that it's safe to grow, safe to try, safe to stumble, without forfeiting your worth. You're not walking a tightrope of perfection. You're navigating a path of progress, and kindness is the ground beneath your feet. And something else begins to change too. Your relationships. The more you accept your own imperfections, the more room you make for the imperfections of others. You stop demanding flawlessness. You start welcoming sincerity. You stop punishing errors. You start extending grace. This isn't about lowering your standards. It's about anchoring them in love, not fear. It's understanding that real excellence grows not from the pressure to never fail, but from the permission to fall and still be worthy of trying again. By embracing imperfection, you embrace your full, complex, beautiful humanity. You no longer wear yourself out chasing the illusion of being done. You accept that you're a work in motion, not a finished sculpture, but a living, breathing masterpiece in progress. And that shift, it changes everything. It lifts the unbearable weight of needing to arrive. It grants you space to exhale, to try, to become. Your cracks remain, your rough edges stay. But instead of signs of shame, they become testaments to your life, your courage, your evolution. So let go of the need to be polished. Choose to be real instead. Practice self-compassion, fiercely, steadily, without condition. And you'll uncover a strength that doesn't come from being perfect, but from being whole. Habit 14, developing a growth mindset and emotional balance. To grow is to live, to truly believe that the person you are today is just the beginning, not the limit of who you can become. That is the seed of strength. That is what allows life to expand around you rather than contract when it becomes difficult. A growth mindset isn't just a concept, it's a posture, a lens through which you view every challenge, every setback, and every win. Not with finality, but with curiosity. A quiet, steady voice saying, "I'm not finished. I'm still becoming." The Stoics lived this truth. Their aim was never to become invincible, but to become resilient. They didn't ask life to be fair, or easy, or predictable. They asked themselves to become the kind of person who could face life with grace, no matter what came. Developing a growth mindset means rethinking failure, not as proof that you're broken, but as evidence that you're trying. It means seeing every struggle not as a verdict, but as an invitation. Every mistake asks, "What am I here to teach you?" Every hardship whispers, "How can I make you stronger?" And from that same soil, emotional balance begins to grow. Because balance is not the absence of emotion. It's not numbness. It's the ability to feel deeply, fully, and still stay centered. To grieve, but not be crushed by grief. To feel anger, but not become it. To know fear and move anyway. Imagine two trees in a storm. One is rigid, unmoving. It resists the wind and breaks. The other is supple, flexible. It sways, it bends, it dances with the wind, but it never shatters. The second tree survives, not because it was stronger, but because it did not resist reality. It moved with it. That's emotional balance. Not avoiding emotions, not suppressing them, but being with them, without being ruled by them. A growth mindset doesn't give you permission to be careless, but it does invite you to embrace imperfection as part of the terrain. Not a flaw in the system, but a feature of life itself. It encourages you to treat your emotions not as threats to avoid, but as signals to explore. When anger flares, you don't shove it away. You ask gently, is there a line that's been crossed? What boundary of mine is crying out to be respected? When sorrow surfaces, you don't sink into it blindly. You ask, what am I grieving, and how can I honor this loss without letting it drown me? And when fear creeps in, you lean closer and whisper back, what am I afraid to risk, and what truth about my values does that reveal? Emotional balance is not numbness. It's not shutting the door on your feelings. It's the quiet skill of staying present with yourself through each rising wave, without running, without inflating, without silencing what's real. It's the steady inner voice that says, yes, I feel this, and yes, I can carry it. Marcus Aurelius, even amid plagues, betrayals, and political pressure, reminded himself, if you're distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. That is emotional sovereignty. It's not about controlling what the world throws at you. It's about mastering how you hold it, how you name it, how you decide what to do with it. And like any form of mastery, it is a daily discipline, not a one-time fix. You must train yourself to celebrate the trying, not just the triumph, to forgive yourself, not to escape accountability, but to renew your commitment to progress, to say, this effort matters. Even if the outcome isn't perfect, even if I have to begin again tomorrow. This requires humility, the kind that accepts you'll never be done growing, that there's always another layer to peel back, another truth to understand, another blind spot to illuminate. It also demands courage, the courage to keep showing up, to fail and rise, to feel fully without being broken by the weight of it. Because growth is never neat, and emotional balance isn't a fixed point. It's dynamic, a dance. Some days you'll falter, some days you'll fall face first into old patterns. But every time you choose to stay engaged with your life instead of turning away, you fortify your core. The voice of defeat softens. The fear of being not enough loosens its grip. You stop asking, am I worthy? And start asking, what's my next step forward? You stop fearing the stumble and start revering it as part of the process. You stop demanding certainty and begin finding strength and adaptability. Because real power isn't about controlling every moment. It's about learning how to meet each one with intention. So cultivate a growth mindset, build emotional balance, and watch how life, even at its most uncertain, shifts from something to endure into something you actively shape. Mastering your emotions doesn't mean becoming invincible. It doesn't mean building walls so tall that nothing ever touches you. Real mastery means standing open, fully alive, fully feeling, but clear on how you respond. It's recognizing anger in its first flicker and choosing not to let it burst into flame. It's hearing the whisper of fear and walking forward anyway. It's allowing sadness, anxiety, even pride or shame to visit without letting them define you. You become the observer. You breathe before reacting. You create a sacred pause, the space in which wisdom lives. This is the kind of freedom the world won't give you. You have to carve it out from within. By practicing mindfulness in everyday moments, by growing your self-awareness, by naming what you feel instead of burying it, you begin to live from your center, not your chaos. You reframe the thoughts that once held you hostage. You offer compassion, not just outward, but inward. You begin to own your reactions, no longer blaming life for the storm inside your head. You shed the weights of pride, ego, and resentment, those silent thieves of inner peace. You speak your truth clearly. You set boundaries without rage or apology. You manage stress not by trying to control the storm, but by becoming a steady, capable vessel that can sail through it. And in doing all of this, you begin to feel, perhaps for the first time, that you are not surviving life. You are mastering how you meet it. And most of all, you are learning to embrace the beautiful, imperfect, constantly evolving masterpiece that is you. You're no longer chasing a polished final version of yourself. You're choosing movement over stillness, growth over safety, resilience over rigidity, and presence over panic. This journey, it's not a straight line. It isn't tidy. It doesn't promise to be over next week or even next year. It's a lifelong rhythm, a returning over and over again to that quiet center within you. The place where peace isn't handed to you by the world, but forged by your own presence, your own intention. And so, hear this as your reminder. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You don't need to be fearless to be free. You only need to be willing to look honestly, willing to feel deeply, willing to choose wisely, even if it's just a little better than yesterday. Master yourself with gentleness. Forgive yourself with fierce compassion. Walk forward with steady steps and trust that every pause, every breath, every act of awareness, no matter how small, is building something strong, something quiet, something unshakable within you. If this path spoke to something inside you, if it stirred a truth you've been waiting to name, then share this with someone you love, someone who's also walking. We are not meant to walk alone. Every step matters. Every step counts. Until next time, stay present, stay grounded, and keep choosing the strength that's always been within you.